Next, what I want to talk about is gauging radical candor. I said a moment ago that radical candor gets measured not at your mouth, but at the other person's ear. And there's such a simple dynamic that I have seen over and over and over again in my coaching practice and just in general throughout my career, is that when you go to give somebody some criticism in particular, but the same can also be true of praise, but when you go to give somebody some feedback, you are usually afraid of being seen as a jerk. You're usually afraid that the other person will get upset and will think you're a jerk. And so that can cause you to really pull your punches. But when you are receiving feedback, you're usually, again, not always, but usually afraid that the other person is pulling their punches, that they're not telling you the whole story. And so as soon as you can uncover this dynamic in your conversations, it becomes much easier for you to move over from ruinous empathy, where you started, towards radical candor, which is where you really want to be. So a simple way to gauge your feedback is just to, after you've given it, ask the person, how did that land for you? If you see that they're upset, say, I'm sorry that you're upset. What is bothering you here? And they'll often tell you either they're upset because they screwed up, or they're upset because they're mad at you. And by the way, if they're mad at you, that's a great opportunity to go back to step number one and solicit feedback. It doesn't mean that you failed. If the other person is having an emotional reaction to your feedback, it does not mean you have failed. I am not offering you with radical candor some sort of emotional Novocaine. We all spend more time at work than in any other part of our lives, and when we screw it up, it hits us in the gut. And it's natural for somebody to be upset. So just eliminate the phrase, don't take it personally, from your vocabulary. Instead, when you see somebody get upset, move up on the care personally dimension of radical candor. Express concern for their feelings, but you don't have to back off your challenge. Move in the right direction. And the only way you can move in the right direction in the radical candor framework is to gauge it, to get a sense of how other people feel about your feedback. Another simple technique for gauging feedback is just to use this framework. Explain this framework to the people who you work with, and at the end of your feedback, say, where did this land for you? Was I obnoxiously aggressive, or was I ruinously apathetic? It becomes a shortcut to a whole much more complicated situation. Works incredibly well. Just ask.